You know you're good when I've made 2 videos about you. Abraham Lincoln is not just the only speaker I've covered twice so far on this channel. He's actually the only speaker I've never heard speak. So you must be doing something pretty incredible to get featured twice. Watch my first video on Lincoln, it'll be in the suggested videos. I've also put a link to it in the video description below to learn why I've studied Lincoln so keenly, why I think he's got so many incredible speaking secrets to share, and why I simply had to come back and cover him again for this round 2. One of the things that really helped to catapult Lincoln into prominence was how willing he was to travel to speak and to speak as many times as he could. He had just delivered a political speech in his early campaigning and it managed to get featured in one of the national newspapers. And suddenly, Lincoln got this whole flurry of requests to go and speak across, in particular, all of New England. And Lincoln accepted as many of those requests as he could, going around multiple states, delivering the speech and variations of the speech again and again. And this really paid off for him down the line. He was often finding himself meeting senior figures in politics, and they would start a conversation with him, and to him they would be a stranger, but they would say, actually Lincoln, I have seen you before. I saw your speech last year, or I saw your speech a couple months ago. And Lincoln had managed to spread his brand and spread his message across so many different people because he'd accepted those opportunities. And that's what we need to do as speakers as well. You need to put yourself out there as often as you can, getting your work and getting your message across to people. Because if you don't show up to speak, people aren't going to hear you. People aren't going to be impacted by your work. And particularly when you're trying to establish yourself, when you're trying to get out there in the world, you've got to accept those opportunities for visibility. Lincoln was able to put himself out there by accepting any opportunity that came his way. What opportunities do you need to accept when they come your way? One of the key things I've talked about in both of my videos on Lincoln is the fact that we don't know what Lincoln sounded like. We have no audio recording. We can only guess. But those guesses are informed because we have people from the time who've described what Lincoln sounded like. And actually those descriptions aren't particularly favorable. Lincoln is described as having a thin and high-pitched voice. It's not one of these deep, booming, commanding voices that we associate with strong leadership. But what people do say about Lincoln is that although the actual quality of his voice maybe didn't sound the best, something that they noted was how much his voice could carry. He could expand his voice into the crowd. And remember, this is in the day before you've got nice little audio adaptations such as what I'm wearing at the moment. You had to do everything through your lung power in order to reach out to those audiences. And that's something that Lincoln was able to do. One of the things that I really notice in a lot of the speakers that I work with, and something that I've encountered myself as well, is being self-conscious about the way our voice sounds. We think we don't have the right voice, we don't have the correct accent, we don't have the right quality, ambience, cadence, whatever fancy word you want to put to it. We simply think that our voice doesn't fit and it doesn't sound right. Well, Lincoln's didn't fit and didn't sound right, but it didn't stop him from having a powerful voice and being able to convey his message in a powerful way. What we can learn from Lincoln is that maybe it's a good thing that we don't actually know what he sounded like, because it makes us focus on the words, it makes us focus on the content of what he was saying. And that's the really important thing to get across to your audience, is that you can have powerful messages, great speeches, captivating content, regardless of what your voice sounds like. It's about having the courage to step up there, delivering with conviction, delivering with passion, expanding your message to your audience. And if your words are good enough, they will stick. Would you like to be a speaker as influential and impactful as Lincoln? One day you can potentially be a speaker that I make not one, but 2 videos on. You know you've made it when you're in the special 2 video club here on the channel. If you're looking to improve and expand your speaking, if you're looking to lead through your speaking, then I've got an online course that can help you. This is my 12-month program, Amplify, Spark Your Speeches. This is a series of live workshops that I did with live clients, and what I've done is I've taken the recordings from these live workshops and I've put them together in an online course that you can work through at your own time and your own pace, teaching you all the key foundations and fundamentals of the content of your speech, how you put those speeches together, for example, the types of things that we're learning from Lincoln, but also about the delivery of your speech. Now that's something that we can't learn from Lincoln because we never saw him deliver his speeches, but it's something that you can work on. Those are skills that you can build into your speaking repertoire. I've put a link to the course in the video description below, and you can activate your first month for a $1 trial. So you can go into the course, see what it's all about, find if it's going to be helpful for you and your speaking going forward. If you want to stay on, great. If it's not quite for you, you cancel your trial. You've still got the first months of learning content for only $1. So either way, you're going to get something out of it. Go to the video description, click the link, and at checkout, enter the code YouTube. Nice and easy to remember. That's where you came from. Enter the code YouTube, all lowercase, all one word, and that'll take your first month subscription down to $1, and you can go in and try it out. I was once described on social media as a fourth-rate lecturer who couldn't speak good grammar, and my speeches were illiterate compositions. Wow, social media is tough nowadays, isn't it? But actually what I've just shared with you didn't come on social media. It came from a newspaper. And it actually wasn't about me. It was about Abraham Lincoln. When Abraham Lincoln became the candidate for the Republican Party in the 1860 presidential election, that was how the Herald described him. They couldn't believe that they had selected this person who, the way that they saw it, wasn't fit for purpose. They didn't sound right. They didn't sound like a politician. They didn't sound like a political leader. But actually, Lincoln understood the way that language connected a lot better than most. Most of the politicians of his day, they were the well-educated elite, and they spoke in this ornate language to make themselves sound like they were part of the elite. But Lincoln recognized that speaking in that way wasn't very relatable. So he deliberately brought his language into a simpler, more everyday parlance so that he could connect with people. In particular, he put in a lot of irony and humor, and he would use this relatable observational humor to connect with his audiences. Lincoln understood the importance of speaking your audience's language. That you've got to work out, how am I best going to connect to this audience? Because if you are speaking to perhaps a very academic audience, then maybe actually that is the type of language that you want to be using when speaking to them. But if you're not speaking to that type of academic audience, you're going to have to think about changing your language. And by changing your language, I don't mean changing the way you express yourself, your personality and who you are, but understanding that there is a different way to express yourself. There's a more formal way of expressing yourself, a more informal way of expressing yourself. And Lincoln found the secret in having a more informal style. Now, of course, if we still listen to him today, the way that he would speak would still sound very formal to us. But it was informal by the standards of the time, and it connected with everyday people because Lincoln was speaking their language. He was speaking to their experiences. He was speaking in a way that sounded like them. And one of the fundamental truths of social psychology is we like people who are like us. And so when people looked at Lincoln, they said, you know, there's someone who can lead me. There's someone who I can follow because I feel that Lincoln gets me. And Lincoln was able to do this all through the language that he used. So when you're delivering your speeches, you've got to have your audience in mind and think about what language best speaks to them. And what I find is that it's rarely about elevating your language and making it more advanced, more academic, more technical. It's more often than not actually breaking it down, simplifying it, making it more informal, more conversational, and that's where you connect with your audience. Lincoln was a master speaker, and he had so many different secrets that helped him build this together. And quite honestly, some secrets that we have probably lost as well, because we can never watch a video of him, we can never hear an audio of him, we don't know the different tricks that he did and the way that he stood and the way that he delivered, the way that he sounded. We only ever hear third-hand reports of this. But we can certainly go and read his words, and his words have lasted. His words leave a legacy. And I think that's something that we all have to think about as speakers, is how are we going to make what we say last? How will your words leave a legacy?